Morning everybody, hope everyone's good. Well, actually afternoon, 1:30. Beautiful day here in the UK, sunny Buckinghamshire. It's miserable this morning when we wake up, but it's right now, things come out. So it's Mixing Mondays on Saturday today. The track we're working on. Track, what's the title of? Enchantment. And we're going to be looking at some spatial effects today. So we're going to be looking at, basically going to be doing what I need to do on this track to add, that was cool, little reverb tail, to add early reflections and basically to add space without ruining the mix, basically, because reverb has a nasty kind of tendency to ruin mix downs, especially if you haven't already created space in the mix, which I've done a lot of filtering, as you can see here, and compression, and did anti-VQ in the last video, to try and create space and room in the mix, to then kind of fill that space out a little bit with reverb. So let's dive right in. So early reflections are the initial reflections you get when a sound basically hits you. So if you're in a room, basically it would be the reflections you get from the floor around you, the walls around you, the ceiling around you. And actually the reverb is determined by the type of material the space is made out of, and it's how long the sound reverberates around in that space. So actually the early reflections are vitally important to tell your ear what kind of space you're in. But also, if we use them without actually the corresponding reverb tail, we can use it as what I've heard called as a dry reverb. So it kind of adds space without basically adding any reverb to things. So it can be really, really powerful. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take all of my drums and I'm going to send them all to a bus, and I'm going to use, I could use any reverb that allows you to separate out early reflections and reverb tails, but the reverb I use the most is Altiverb. So apologies if you don't have Altiverb, but I mean, you could use any reverb really. This is quite a natural sounding track in a way. So I think keeping the reverb kind of natural, and this is a convolution reverb. So I like to use the studio spaces. And to be honest, I often use the Psalm studio spaces. I usually try some of these out. So now we've got all these drums going to a bus. Here's the reverb bus. Let's actually just solo the drums. And what I can do with an Altiverb, and you can do this in other reverbs. That's great. It's just crashed. That's great. Thanks for that, Logic. To be fair, I don't know if that's ever actually happened on a live stream. Logic's crashed. Probably has. But hey, I was telling a story the other day that I was in Berlin. I was doing a talk at SAE. Which was really cool, and I really enjoyed it. But it's the only time Logic's ever crashed and then not auto-saved. So I was in a room full of people. It was about 40 people or something, and I was kind of making a track. And Logic just closed, and I hadn't saved it. And it didn't autosave, so I had to start the whole thing again, which was fun. It was fun. Good times. Cool. So let's load this up again. Hopefully that won't happen again. So if we open this up, you see we have early and we have tail. That's what I'm talking about. So the early reflections are the reflections that come around from the surfaces around you, and the reverberation comes from the kind of surrounding. Comes from the material, and it's the amount of time it takes for the sound to basically disappear. So let's try this again. Take two. So let's try this some West, and let's take the tail off. And if I play the drums, let's play a bit with everything playing, or just the drums playing. I'll solo everything. Obviously that's exaggerated, but that's the sound of the early reflections. You can recognise that from, it's very much a kind of a roomy kind of sound. But we can use that to like subtly add a sense of space without adding reverb. And also what we're adding is a unified space, because they're all playing in the same space. So sometimes you get these weird little like pan situations with some of these things, which can be a little bit annoying. So if I click on this again, I often try and find one that doesn't have that like it's not got a funny pan thing going on. So that's better. So that's really tight. That's a live room. So it depends on the kind of space you're going for, really. Again, this has got a weird kind of pan effect to it. Try that, didn't we? Yeah, that's quite nice. Listen to all the bass that's added, all the sub that's added to the kick as well. Yeah, really meaty sounding. Now we can have this really low in the mix. So let's take everything off solo. Opens up quite a lot. A bit more flat. And it's slightly more 3D. So I'm going to leave that in. Now, what have we got here? So we've got that room reverb on there. But what we could try is adding some actual reverb on the clap. So I really try and pick and choose where I put the reverb. I don't put reverb on everything at all. And in fact, I only try and put reverb on maybe one or two things in a mix, if we're not counting any reflections as being reverb. Oh, sorry. One thing I should say, actually, one thing you can do here is use pre-delay, which is quite good. So this separates out the sound from the early reflection or from the reverb, which can help you maintain a bit of clarity in the mix as well. So dry. I'm obviously exaggerating it. Sounds cool. So let's bring up the pre-delay for the reverb. Now we can actually do this in musical ways as well, musical timings if we want to be really kind of on it. So if I put in 120 beats per minute, we could have the reverb coming in an 8th note after the sound, or a 16th note, or let's try a 32nd note. So we'll set this to 60, which is a problem. I think it was 62. Can I put this in directly? Probably 62. Yeah, so now the pre-delay is coming 62 milliseconds after the clap. You could also use a musical time on the actual decay tail of the reverb. So this is 1.2 seconds. 1.2 seconds, which is not what I want. Let's put it to 1 second, which is a half note. So now the reverb is going to last a half note. So nothing. Just ever so slightly opens things up a little bit. Now I'm quite heavy-handed here with some of the exciter on the master, which I try and avoid doing because I'm doing a lot of processing on the master to make sure that the track's kind of balanced and fat and loud and stuff. And I think it's making it a little bit distorted, and maybe just a little bit on the maximization's a bit high as well. Now, this track, I've bounced in a lot of the sounds with delays and reverbs on them, and in fact, I'd say it's arguably a little bit busy. This track is a little bit maybe too much going on in places. It's not too bad, but it is a little bit. I'd say a little bit busy in places. So so I've got to be careful with the space that I add. It doesn't need too much, basically. So like. Okay, I've got the keys, they haven't got much on them, but obviously there's lots of effects on that sound to kind of turn it into the sound it is. But if you want to take away some reverb, then you can use things like sometimes a transient master helps to do, or a transient shaper, sorry. So it's much more, suddenly much tighter. I probably use that plugin more than any other plugin, I'd say, Transient Master. Okay, so as I said in the description of this video, I'm going to be using delay, reverb, and early reflection. So let's say on this guitar here, let me just hear how this sounds. Just got a bit of a click on it, I think now it's bad editing, but I'm just going to leave that as it is. I might try and get rid of that click later, but anyway. So we can use things like delays. So that's already got some delay on it. Let's try and find something which doesn't. But it's this simple analog lead. I think the flute's dry, so this could be quite a good one to do. Or not. Okay, so there's some keys, and I think the keys are pretty much dry. Cool. Okay, so the keys need space to them, but I've also made the keys mono pretty much because it's quite a busy mix. And I wanted to, to have its own everything to have its own place. So the keys were taking up too much space. But we can try using classics in here. I want a kind of a slap. So there's this one, edgy edgy vocal slap. So this is delay. We can basically use delay instead of reverb. So let's try this. So you can hear that. So it's now got a subtle sense of space to it. But there's no reverb, but it's got space to it because I'm using it's actually a vocal slap. I actually quite like that setting. It's on a ping pong effect, which means it's got that stereo added. So it's still got a mono, but I've now got a stereo width added to it. So let's see what this is like in the mix. I actually think that is all the reverb and delay I need, and the reason is that I've bounced a lot of the sounds with reverbs and delays on because I am trying to make loads and loads of music at the moment, and as much as I'd love to, what I used to do is take all the effects of every sound and do a completely new mix with all new effects, and it just takes too long. So I kind of bounce the sounds with effects on these days, and then if anything isn't working, I can go back to it. But generally, I don't even do that. I just work with what I've got and work that way. So already some of the sounds have got reverbs and delays baked in, but also I don't want to add loads of reverb to things. I never add things on for the sake of it. There always needs to be a reason. So what I've done is I've just added early reflections, as I said, to the drums. Now, something we can do also is to process our reverb tails as well. So, for example, let me just see. So it looks like it might be no. So there should be a channel. Maybe I've bounced it. So I'm just going to copy this across. So we could add LFO to the early reflections. Let's try that. And what we could also do is use EQ as well. Now, I generally never roll off the low frequencies from the early reflections because can you hear all that meaty low end that you get from the early reflections? I just really like that. I love the sound of it on the kick. So I never really roll off the lows, but rolling off the highs can help kind of set it back a little bit, which can be quite nice. That's good. I don't know why it's fading up like that. I know why. Because the LFO's got a weird setting on it. That was really confusing. Main side chain, yeah. So we could try something like that. Yeah, I quite like that, I think. Now, the other reverb, we could do a similar kind of thing. So roll off the high frequencies. I'm going to roll off the lows for this reverb as well. So yeah, so you can process the reverb tails and delays and things like that. Let's do it on these keys as well. To again create space can be helpful in the busy mix. Okay, so let's take these in and out again. So focus on how the front back perspective changes when I bring those effects in. Now it's not like crazy different, but subtly suddenly it becomes more open. To me it feels less like I'm sitting in a room listening to it with headphones on, and it feels more like I'm in some kind of space. Yeah, cool. So I'm happy with that. So that is going to be my all I'm going to do in terms of spatial effects for this mix, because I think that's all it needs really. Now, one thing I'm going to do next, which has got nothing to do with space, well, it does have something to do with space, but nothing to do with spatial effects, is actually just go through the mix. I like to do this with the audio and actually just work out there's areas where two things are playing on top of each other. Like here, this is maybe not necessary to have these two things playing, because sometimes when I'm producing I work very fast and I don't always realize that I've put things on top of each other and stuff, and it's actually a good chance to just like clear things up when you've just got the audio and you can see, well, do I need those two things playing at the same time? So let's try without the guitar. Yeah, so I think I prefer the guitar at that point there. So let's see if there's any other clashes. Yeah. So maybe here, could these interchange like so? Yeah, I think they could. It's just a good opportunity just to make sure that, as I said, I haven't been a bit sloppy with my kind of interchanging and interlocking of sounds and kind of call and response and stuff like that, which is a big part of music. I got to pick up Chris Pearson, who played the bass on this. Dropped a fire bass line. I remember when we recorded this bass line, I was like, God, what's Chris been eating this morning? He's smashing it. Even here with the flute, yeah, I think the flute needs to have its little moment there. Is there any other bits here where the flute clashes with the guitar? Probably here. Because it's one of those things that if you find it, if it's kind of a bit messy in the studio, in a club, it's just forget about it. It's just, no chance. No chance you're going to hear it. It's just going to be, yeah. You listen to the best club tracks, and obviously it depends on the kind of music you're making a little bit, But the clubs that are, tracks that sound best in the club are the simplest ones. Have I got the same thing playing twice here? Yeah, I think I do. So let's take that bit out and that bit, and hopefully that won't be playing twice anymore. Okay, harp. So what's here? So we've got some piano and harp. Try. Open up. so here the mega jam sound gets quite hectic, so maybe we could take out the Latin percussion here. Okay, cool. I don't know what it's going on. It's like the lamest hi-hat that comes in there, but for some reason, even though I know it's terrible, I don't know what I was doing choosing that hi-hat, I've grown somehow attached to it, attached to the lameness. I can't explain that. But anyway, so that's going to be it for today's Mixing Monday, obviously on Saturday. So the takeout of this, hopefully, is that you can see that you don't have to always just... basically, it's good to have a strategy for reverb. Now, sometimes I have much more of a strategy when it comes to space, because sometimes I'm actually really thinking of what is the kind of space. Whereas for this one, I just went for the Ultraverb Psalm live room. So I'm kind of going for like a band playing in a studio. That's the space I'm going for, and then a plate, because plates just sound good on claps and snares and things like that. Anything you want to have like a very clean, consistent reverb, plates sound good for that. So, I guess the space of this track has already been slightly dictated by the sounds that have had the reverbs and delays bounced in. But some tracks you might say, I want it to be like a stadium, or like a it's playing on Mars, or like whatever. You can be a bit more experimental. But this one, I want it to sound almost like a band. There's lots of real instruments, a flute, a live bass, real guitar. So I kind of want it to sound like it was it was playing in a kind of live room space. So that's what I did. So I'm going to bounce this down, put it into my Trello organizational tool, and then we'll come back to this one next week, and we shall do some parallel processing and maybe some bus processing if we have time. All right, guys, have a wonderful weekend. I'm hoping for a Manchester United win this afternoon, 5:30, taking on Tottenham. And as I said, I won't be in on Monday. I may pop in tomorrow, but there won't be any live streaming tomorrow for sure. But I'll be back on Tuesday. Tuesday will be just a production kind of session. So just a production session. So I'll be working on one of my track ideas and maybe adding some new sounds and trying to work out a direction for it. And then Wednesday will be the same idea development. Then Thursday I'll be doing another sample creation session, and then Friday I'll be making a track with it. So make sure you check that out if you're interested. On Thursday last week I made a sample using like plugins and plug-in guitar instruments and stuff like that. And then on Friday I made a track with the sample. I haven't listened back to it yet. It was feeling quite good when I did it. But I usually like to wait 2-3 days before I listen back to it to just see. But it was really good fun, and I think if it's something you're interested in trying yourself, it'd be might be cool to get some inspiration from. All right, guys, have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next week.